Have you ever said something and immediately wished you could take it back? Or made a decision while you were angry, only to regret it later? Maybe you've spent an entire day feeling anxious because of one small comment. Or perhaps one difficult moment completely changed your mood, even though everything else in your life was going well. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. Every human being experiences emotions: fear, anger, sadness, jealousy, excitement, disappointment. The problem isn't having emotions. The problem begins when our emotions start making our decisions for us. I'm Clara, and today I'd like to explore one of the most valuable life skills you can ever develop: learning how to stop being controlled by your emotions. This doesn't mean becoming cold. It doesn't mean pretending you never feel angry, afraid, or sad. And it certainly doesn't mean ignoring your emotions. In fact, healthy emotional control begins by understanding your emotions, not fighting them. Throughout this lesson, we'll discover why emotions sometimes take control of our behavior, why our brain reacts before it thinks, and how small daily habits can help us stay calm even in stressful situations. We'll talk about emotional triggers, the power of pausing before reacting, how to separate feelings from facts, why your thoughts influence your emotions, and how emotionally strong people respond differently when life becomes difficult. At the same time, you'll improve your English listening skills, learn useful vocabulary related to psychology, emotions, and communication, and naturally build your speaking confidence through meaningful ideas you can use in everyday life. By the end of this lesson, you won't stop having emotions. Nobody can. But you'll understand how to stop letting temporary emotions control permanent decisions. Because one angry minute, one fearful thought, or one emotional reaction should never have the power to decide the direction of your entire life. So, let's begin. Truth number 1. Your emotions are messengers, not masters. Imagine you're driving a car. Suddenly, a warning light appears on the dashboard. What does that light mean? Does it mean you should immediately abandon the car? No, it simply tells you that something needs your attention. Your emotions work in a very similar way. They are signals, not commands. They tell you that something is happening inside you, but they don't automatically tell you what you should do next. This is one of the biggest misunderstandings people have about emotions. Many believe that because they feel something, they must act on it immediately. If they feel angry, they shout. If they feel afraid, they avoid the situation. If they feel jealous, they become suspicious. If they feel disappointed, they give up. But emotionally strong people understand something different. There is a space between feeling and reacting. And inside that small space, you have a choice. Let's imagine a simple situation. You're at work or at school. Someone criticizes your idea in front of other people. The moment you hear those words, your body reacts before your mind does. Your heart beats faster. Your muscles become tense. You feel embarrassed or angry. This reaction is completely normal. Your brain is trying to protect you from what it sees as a social threat. The emotion appears automatically. You didn't choose it. But what happens next is where emotional intelligence begins. You could interrupt the person, raise your voice, say something you'll regret. Or you could pause, take one slow breath, listen carefully, and ask yourself, what exactly am I feeling right now? Maybe you're not really angry. Maybe you're embarrassed. Maybe you feel misunderstood. Maybe you're afraid that other people will think less of you. The more accurately you identify your emotion, the easier it becomes to manage it. Psychologists sometimes call this name it to tame it. When you clearly identify an emotion, its intensity often decreases. Instead of saying, "I'm feeling bad," be more specific. "I'm frustrated. I'm disappointed. I'm nervous. I'm worried." These words give your brain more clarity. Now let's look at another example. Imagine your friend doesn't reply to your message for several hours. Your mind immediately starts creating stories. They're ignoring me. Maybe they're upset with me. I must have done something wrong. Notice what happened. The emotion arrived first. Then your brain started searching for explanations. But are those explanations facts? Not necessarily. Maybe your friend is busy. Maybe their phone battery died. Maybe they simply forgot to answer. Your feelings are real, but they are not always proof that your thoughts are true. This is one of the most important lessons you can learn. Feelings are real. Facts must be verified. Emotionally mature people don't ignore their feelings. They simply avoid treating every feeling as evidence. Now, think about learning English. Perhaps you're speaking with someone, you make a mistake, immediately you feel embarrassed. Your emotion says, stop talking. If you continue, you'll make more mistakes. But what are the facts? The fact is that you made one mistake. The emotion tries to convince you that you should stop practicing completely. If you obey that emotion every time, your progress stops. Instead, you can acknowledge the feeling without allowing it to make the decision. You can think, yes, I feel embarrassed, but I'm still going to continue speaking. That's emotional strength. Not the absence of fear, but the ability to move forward even while fear is present. Here's a simple habit you can practice every day. The next time you experience a strong emotion, don't ask, what should I do? First ask, what is this emotion trying to tell me? Maybe it's telling you that something matters. Maybe it's warning you about a problem. Maybe it's reminding you that you're tired, stressed, or overwhelmed. Listen to the message, but don't automatically obey the emotion. Remember, your emotions are like visitors. Some stay for a few minutes, others stay for a few hours. Very few stay forever. If you make permanent decisions based on temporary emotions, you'll often regret them later. So the next time anger, fear, sadness, or frustration appears, remember this simple truth. Your emotions deserve to be heard, but they should never become the ones driving your life. Because emotions are powerful messengers, but they were never meant to be your masters. Truth number 2. The pause between emotion and reaction is where your real power lives. Have you ever noticed how quickly emotions can take over? 1 second, everything feels normal. The next, you're angry, or anxious, or hurt, or frustrated. It happens so fast that it almost feels automatic. And in many ways, it is. Our brains are designed to react quickly to anything they see as a threat. Thousands of years ago, this helped humans survive. If our ancestors saw danger, they couldn't spend 5 minutes analyzing the situation. They had to react immediately. Fight, run, hide. That fast response saved lives. But today's challenges are very different. Most of us aren't running from wild animals. Instead, we're dealing with difficult conversations, stressful deadlines, criticism, misunderstandings, and disappointment. Yet our brains often respond to these situations as if they were life-threatening. That's why a simple email can ruin your morning. A negative comment can stay in your mind for hours. Or one disagreement can make you want to end a friendship. The emotion arrives, and before you realize it, you're reacting. But here's something emotionally intelligent people understand. You can't always control your first emotional reaction. You can control what happens next. That tiny moment between feeling something and doing something is where your real strength begins. Think about someone who insults you. Your first instinct might be to insult them back. After all, it feels fair. It feels satisfying. But ask yourself this question. Have you ever regretted staying calm? Probably not. Now ask yourself another question. How many times have you regretted reacting too quickly? Most people can remember many moments. Words spoken in anger, messages sent too soon, decisions made while upset, relationships damaged by one emotional reaction. Often, the biggest regrets in life don't happen because we felt an emotion. They happen because we acted before thinking. This is why learning to pause is one of the most valuable habits you can develop. A pause doesn't have to be long. Sometimes 5 seconds is enough. Take one slow breath. Relax your shoulders. Notice what's happening inside your body. Ask yourself, what outcome do I actually want here? That simple question changes everything. Imagine you're having an argument with someone you love. You could focus on winning the argument, or you could focus on protecting the relationship. Those are two very different goals. When emotions are in control, people often try to win. When wisdom is in control, people try to understand. The pause gives you the chance to choose the second option. Let's look at another example. Imagine you've been working hard on a project. You proudly show it to your manager, your teacher, or even a friend. Instead of praising it, they point out several mistakes. Immediately, disappointment appears. Your inner voice starts saying, "They don't appreciate me. I'm not good enough. Why do I even try?" If you react immediately, you might become defensive. You might stop listening. Or you might decide to quit altogether. But if you pause, you create space for another possibility. Maybe they're not attacking you. Maybe they're trying to help you improve. Constructive criticism doesn't always feel comfortable, but discomfort and danger are not the same thing. Emotion often confuses the two. This lesson is especially important when you're learning English. Imagine you're speaking with a native speaker. You pronounce a word incorrectly. They politely correct you. For a moment, you feel embarrassed. Your emotional brain says, "Stop talking. You sound foolish." But your rational mind can answer, "No, I just learned something new." That one pause keeps you moving forward instead of giving up. Many successful people share one common habit. They rarely make important decisions while experiencing intense emotions. They don't send emotional emails immediately. They don't quit their jobs during one bad day. They don't end friendships after one misunderstanding. Instead, they wait. They sleep on it. They give their emotions time to settle before making decisions that could change their lives. Because they understand something powerful. Emotions are temporary. Consequences can last for years. So here's a challenge for you. The next time you feel a strong emotion, don't rush to react. Count slowly to 5. Take one deep breath. Ask yourself, will I still feel this way tomorrow? Sometimes the answer will be yes. Sometimes it will be no. Either way, that brief pause gives your wiser mind a chance to catch up with your emotional one. And over time, those small pauses become life-changing habits. They help you speak more kindly, think more clearly, make better decisions, and respond with confidence instead of impulse. Because your greatest power isn't found in controlling other people. It's found in learning to control your own response. Truth number 3. Your thoughts create the story, and the story shapes your emotions. Imagine 2 people walking into the same room for a job interview. Both are equally qualified. Both have prepared carefully. Both are wearing professional clothes. Yet, inside their minds, 2 completely different conversations are happening. The first person thinks, "I'm probably going to fail. They'll notice every mistake. I'm not good enough." Within minutes, their heart starts racing. Their hands become sweaty. Their voice begins to shake. Not because anything bad has happened, but because their thoughts have created a frightening story. Now look at the second person. They think, "I've prepared well. I might make a few mistakes, and that's okay." This is an opportunity to learn. They still feel nervous, but they also feel hopeful. Notice something interesting. The situation is exactly the same. The difference isn't reality. The difference is the story each person is telling themselves. This is one of the most powerful truths about emotions. Events don't always create emotions. Often, it's our interpretation of those events that does. Think about the last time someone looked serious while talking to you. Did you immediately assume they were angry? Maybe you thought, they don't like me. I must have said something wrong. A few hours later, you discovered they had simply been tired after a long day. Nothing had ever been wrong. Your emotions weren't caused by the person's face. They were caused by the story your mind invented. Our brains are natural storytellers. Every day, they fill in missing information. Sometimes those stories are accurate. Sometimes they aren't. The problem is that our emotions respond to the story, whether it's true or false. Psychologists call this cognitive distortion. It happens when our minds interpret situations in ways that aren't completely realistic. For example, imagine you send an important message. Hours pass without a reply. Your brain immediately starts writing a story. They're ignoring me. They're upset with me. I've ruined the relationship. But another story could also be true. Maybe they're driving. Maybe they're working. Maybe their phone is on silent. Maybe they simply haven't seen your message yet. The facts haven't changed. Only the story has. And when the story changes, your emotions change too. This is why emotionally resilient people regularly question their own thinking. Instead of believing every thought that enters their mind, they ask, is this a fact? Or is this my interpretation? That single question can save you from hours of unnecessary stress. Let's apply this to learning English. Imagine you're speaking with a native speaker. You forget one word. Immediately, your inner voice says, my English is terrible. I'll never become fluent. Everyone thinks I sound stupid. But are those facts? Not at all. The only fact is that you forgot one word. Everything else is a story your mind created. Now imagine changing that story. Instead of saying, I failed, you say, I communicated successfully even though I forgot one word. Suddenly, the same experience feels completely different. Your confidence grows instead of shrinking. This doesn't mean lying to yourself or pretending everything is perfect. It means choosing a story that is balanced and realistic. Here's another example. Suppose you make one mistake at work. Some people immediately think, I'm terrible at my job. Others think, I made one mistake. I'll learn from it. Which person do you think will improve faster? Usually, it's the second one. Because shame rarely helps us grow. Curiosity does. Instead of asking, what's wrong with me? Try asking, what can I learn from this? One question creates self-criticism. The other creates progress. The stories we tell ourselves eventually become the beliefs we carry every day. If you constantly repeat, I'm unlucky, I'm weak, I'm always failing, your brain begins searching for evidence to support those beliefs. But if you begin saying, I can improve, I've overcome challenges before, I don't have to be perfect to move forward, your brain starts noticing opportunities instead of obstacles. Remember, your mind is always talking. The question isn't whether you'll tell yourself a story. The question is whether that story will help you or hold you back. So the next time a strong emotion appears, pause for a moment and ask yourself, what story am I telling myself right now? Then ask, is there another explanation that might also be true? You may be surprised by how often your emotions soften simply because you changed the story. Because when you learn to guide your thoughts with wisdom instead of fear, you stop becoming a prisoner of your emotions, and you become the author of a stronger, calmer, and more resilient life. Truth number 4. Emotional strength is built through daily habits, not perfect self-control. When people think of someone who is emotionally strong, they often imagine a person who never gets angry, never feels anxious, never becomes frustrated, never cries. But that image isn't realistic. Even the calmest, wisest people experience difficult emotions. The difference is not that they feel less. The difference is that they have built habits that help them respond better. Emotional strength isn't something you're born with. It's something you practice. Think about going to the gym. You don't become physically strong after lifting a weight once. You become stronger by repeating small actions over and over again. Your emotional life works exactly the same way. Every time you choose patience instead of anger, you're training your mind. Every time you stay calm during a stressful situation, you're strengthening your emotional muscles. Every time you forgive instead of holding on to resentment, you're becoming more emotionally resilient. These small moments may not seem important, but over months and years, they completely change the way you respond to life. One of the most powerful habits you can develop is learning to take care of your body. This might sound surprising. What does physical health have to do with emotions? Actually, quite a lot. Think about how you feel after sleeping only 4 hours. Small problems suddenly feel enormous. You're more impatient, more sensitive, more likely to become angry over things that normally wouldn't bother you. Now compare that with a day after a good night's sleep. The same problems often seem much easier to handle. The situation didn't change. Your ability to respond did. The same is true for exercise. Regular movement helps reduce stress hormones and improves your mood. You don't have to spend hours in the gym. Even a daily walk can make a noticeable difference. Healthy food also matters. When your body constantly lacks energy, your mind has fewer resources to manage emotional challenges. Taking care of your body is not selfish. It's one of the foundations of emotional balance. Another important habit is protecting your mind from constant negativity. Think about how much information you consume every day. News, social media, arguments online, negative comments, complaints. Without realizing it, your brain absorbs all of it. Imagine pouring dirty water into a glass every single day. Eventually, the entire glass becomes cloudy. Your mind works the same way. If you spend hours surrounded by negativity, fear, and conflict, it becomes much harder to stay calm and optimistic. This doesn't mean ignoring reality. It simply means choosing your mental diet as carefully as your physical one. Read books that inspire you. Listen to thoughtful conversations. Spend time with people who encourage growth instead of constant drama. Your environment shapes your emotions more than you may realize. Gratitude is another simple habit that has remarkable effects. When something goes wrong, our brains naturally focus on the problem. This is called the negativity bias. Long ago, paying attention to danger helped humans survive. But today, this same habit often causes us to overlook everything that's going well. That's why many emotionally healthy people spend a few minutes each day thinking about what they're thankful for. It doesn't have to be something extraordinary: a supportive friend, a peaceful morning, good health, a lesson learned, even your progress in learning English. Gratitude doesn't erase problems. It simply reminds your brain that problems are not the whole story. Another habit is accepting that you cannot control everything. Many people suffer because they spend enormous amounts of energy trying to control other people's opinions, choices, or behavior. But the truth is, you can't control what others say. You can't control whether someone likes you. You can't control every unexpected event in life. What you can control is your response, your attitude, your effort, your character. The more you focus on what you can control, the more peaceful your life becomes. Perhaps the most important habit of all is showing yourself kindness when you make mistakes. Many people believe that being hard on themselves will help them improve. In reality, constant self-criticism usually creates fear. not growth. Imagine trying to teach a child by shouting at them every time they make a mistake. Would they become more confident? Probably not. So why do we speak to ourselves that way? Instead of saying, "I'm such a failure," try saying, "I made a mistake, but I can learn from it." That small change creates a completely different emotional response. Growth becomes possible because shame is replaced with curiosity. No one develops emotional strength overnight. It is built in ordinary moments, when no one is watching. When you choose to breathe instead of react, to listen instead of interrupt, to learn instead of complain, to move forward instead of giving up. These quiet daily choices shape the person you become. Because emotional mastery isn't about being perfect every single day. It's about becoming just a little wiser, a little calmer, and a little stronger than you were yesterday. Truth number 5. Peace comes when you stop letting temporary emotions make permanent decisions. Imagine waking up one morning after a terrible night's sleep. You're exhausted. Nothing seems to go right. Someone says something that irritates you. Traffic is worse than usual. Your phone battery dies. By lunchtime, you're convinced that it's the worst day ever. In that emotional state, you might feel like quitting your job, ending a relationship, giving up on a dream, or deciding that nothing in your life is working. Now imagine that same person 1 week later. They've rested. The stressful situation has passed. Their emotions have settled. Suddenly, those dramatic decisions no longer seem reasonable. What changed? The facts? Not necessarily. The emotions did. This is why emotionally wise people avoid making permanent decisions during temporary emotional storms. Think about the ocean. On some days, the water is calm and peaceful. On other days, powerful waves crash against the shore. But deep beneath the surface, the ocean remains steady. Your mind can become like that. The surface may experience anger, sadness, excitement, or fear. But underneath, you can learn to stay grounded. One of the greatest mistakes people make is believing that every emotion deserves immediate action. You feel angry, so you send the message. You feel discouraged, so you quit. You feel afraid, so you never begin. You feel lonely, so you stay in unhealthy relationships. You feel excited, so you make impulsive decisions without thinking about the consequences. Emotions are important, but they are temporary visitors. They come, they stay for a while, and eventually, they leave. If you wait until the emotional storm passes, you'll often see the situation much more clearly. That's why many successful people follow a simple rule. When emotions are high, important decisions can wait. If you're extremely angry, don't send the email immediately. Write it, save it, read it again tomorrow. If you're deeply disappointed, don't decide that you've failed forever. Give yourself time to recover. If you're overwhelmed, don't assume your future will always look the way it does today. Strong emotions narrow our perspective. They make today's problem feel like it will last forever. But life rarely works that way. Think back to a difficult moment from a few years ago. At the time, it probably felt enormous. You may have believed you'd never recover. Yet here you are today, still moving forward, still learning, still growing. The pain was real, but it wasn't permanent. This is an important reminder whenever emotions become overwhelming. Feelings change. They always do. Confidence comes and goes. Fear comes and goes. Motivation comes and goes. Even happiness comes and goes. If you expect yourself to feel motivated every single day, you'll be disappointed. Emotionally mature people don't rely only on motivation. They rely on values. For example, imagine you're learning English. Some days you'll feel excited to study. Other days you'll feel tired or discouraged. If you study only when you're motivated, your progress will be slow. But if you study because you've decided that becoming fluent is one of your values, you'll continue even when motivation disappears. The same principle applies to every part of life. Values create consistency. Emotions create temporary reactions. Choose your values to lead your life. Let your emotions simply inform you. There's another powerful habit that brings emotional peace: forgiveness. Many people believe forgiveness means saying that what happened was acceptable. It doesn't. Forgiveness simply means you're choosing not to carry the weight forever. Holding on to anger is like carrying a heavy backpack every single day. The person who hurt you may have moved on long ago, but you're still carrying the burden. Forgiveness doesn't change the past, it changes your future. It allows you to move forward instead of remaining trapped by yesterday's pain. Finally, remember this: you will never reach a point where difficult emotions disappear completely. Even the strongest people still experience fear before a challenge, sadness after a loss, frustration when things don't go as planned. The goal isn't to eliminate emotions. The goal is to become someone who can experience them without becoming controlled by them. Because emotional freedom doesn't mean feeling less, it means choosing wisely even when your emotions are loud. So the next time anger tells you to react, pause. The next time fear tells you to quit, take one more step. The next time disappointment tells you to give up, remember how far you've already come. Little by little, decision by decision, you begin taking back control of your life, not by ignoring your emotions, but by refusing to let them become the author of your future. Your emotions are part of who you are, but they do not define who you become. And perhaps that's the greatest form of freedom any person can achieve. Thank you so much for listening today. If you enjoyed this lesson, keep practicing your English by listening regularly, speaking with confidence, and applying these ideas in your daily life. Every conversation, every mistake, and every small step brings you closer to fluency and to becoming a calmer, stronger version of yourself. I'll see you in the next lesson.